Modern distractions pull young people further away from the path of truth and purpose, and this has become one of the greatest challenges of our time. Every day, youth are bombarded with endless messages from entertainment, social media, and peer pressure that glorify self-indulgence and instant gratification. These distractions may seem harmless on the surface, yet they have a subtle power to shape the way young people think, act, and live. The phone in their hand becomes a window to comparison, where they measure themselves against the filtered images of others and conclude that they are not good enough. The shows they watch normalize lifestyles that ignore God, turning sin into entertainment and rebellion into something admirable. Even their conversations and friendships are often centered on temporary pleasures, leaving little room for reflection on eternal matters. With every moment consumed by distractions, many young hearts lose sight of who they are and why they were created. This constant stream of noise promises excitement and freedom, yet it leaves behind emptiness. It convinces young people that the more they chase after worldly pleasures, the happier they will be. But the truth is, the more they consume, the less satisfied they feel. Distractions create a cycle of dependency, always looking for the next thrill, the next like, the next achievement, yet none of it fills the deep longing of the soul. A young person may spend hours scrolling, laughing, and being entertained, but when the screen turns off, the silence feels unbearable. That silence exposes the truth. No amount of distraction can cover the emptiness within. The more the world offers, the more restless the heart becomes, because it was never designed to be fulfilled by temporary things. The danger is not only in the time wasted, but in the gradual shift of values. When youth allow distractions to define their lives, they begin to believe lies about what truly matters. They start to value appearance over character, popularity over integrity, and pleasure over responsibility. Their goals become shallow, chasing recognition instead of purpose, and their identity becomes tied to things that can crumble in a moment. A lost job, a broken relationship, or even a decline in online attention can send them into despair, because their foundation was never secure to begin with. Distractions promise stability, but deliver instability, promising happiness, but leading to anxiety and depression. Yet there is a reason why these distractions feel so powerful. Deep inside every young person is a longing for joy, connection, and meaning. The problem is not the longing itself, but where they try to satisfy it. The soul was created to seek something greater, but when it is fed with temporary pleasures, it becomes starved of truth. This is why the more distracted a young person becomes, the more restless they feel. No video, no popularity, no trend can ever replace the peace that comes from walking with God. Distractions are like counterfeit coins. They look valuable but leave the soul bankrupt. The tragedy is that many youth do not even realize how far they have drifted until their lives feel empty and directionless. They may try to fill the void with relationships, substances, or success, but none of these can heal the wound left by separation from their Creator. Every distraction is a thief of time, a thief of focus, and a thief of destiny. Youth often underestimate how precious their time is, but every moment spent on meaningless pursuits is a moment lost forever. Their best years, the years of energy, vision, and creativity, can be consumed by things that will not matter in the end. The call, then, is for young people to recognize the power distractions hold over them and to step away from them before it is too late. This is not about rejecting technology or abandoning every form of entertainment. It is about learning to place God first so that everything else takes its rightful place. Without this shift, distractions will continue to dictate the direction of their lives, pulling them further into confusion and despair. The sooner young people turn away from the noise and back to the voice of God, the sooner they will discover the joy, peace, and clarity that have been missing. Modern distractions are powerful, but they are not stronger than the call of truth. Youth must awaken to this reality and return before their destiny is lost to the things that never truly mattered. True joy comes from God, yet many young people today are chasing joy in places where it cannot be found. The world offers countless promises of happiness through wealth, fame, relationships, and pleasure, but none of these ever last. A new purchase may bring excitement for a moment, a relationship may feel fulfilling for a time, and success may create a temporary high, but sooner or later the feeling fades, leaving behind an emptiness that demands to be filled again. This cycle of chasing and losing joy has left an entire generation restless and dissatisfied, never finding the stability they long for. They look around and wonder why, despite having more opportunities, more technology, and more freedom than ever before, they feel more anxious, more disconnected, and more hopeless. The answer lies in the reality that joy cannot be found in temporary things, because the human soul was designed to find its joy in God alone. God's joy is different from the fleeting pleasures of the world. It is not based on circumstances, on whether life is going smoothly, or on whether everything is under control. True joy from God remains steady even in the storms of life. It provides a foundation that cannot be shaken by disappointment, failure, or loss. This is why young people who build their happiness on worldly pleasures find themselves constantly unstable, because when the foundation crumbles, so does their sense of worth. But when joy is rooted in God, it cannot be stolen by the ups and downs of life. It remains alive in the heart, not because everything is perfect, but because God Himself is unchanging. Young people often believe that following God means giving up joy, but the opposite is true. Returning to God does not take away joy, it restores it in its purest form. It heals the emptiness that worldly pleasures leave behind and fills it with peace that surpasses understanding. Joy from God is not shallow laughter that disappears in silence. It is a deep and abiding gladness that carries through every season. It allows the soul to rejoice even in times of difficulty, because the heart knows it is secure and loved by its Creator. Without this kind of joy, the search for meaning becomes endless, but with it, life finds its true purpose. Every generation faces temptations that promise joy but deliver disappointment, and today's youth are no different. Many turn to substances, entertainment, or unhealthy relationships in search of happiness, only to end up more broken than before. They mistake pleasure for joy, but the two are not the same. Pleasure satisfies for a moment, but leaves scars in the long run, while joy heals and strengthens. God's joy does not demand compromise or sacrifice of integrity. It uplifts, renews, and sets people free. It teaches young people that they do not have to chase the next trend or the next approval to feel complete, because they are already whole in God's presence. The absence of true joy is one of the greatest reasons so many young people feel lost. Depression, anxiety, and loneliness are rising among the youth because they are seeking joy in things that were never meant to provide it. They are filling their lives with noise, but starving their souls of truth. Yet the moment they return to God, they discover a joy that is not only real but lasting. It is a joy that gives strength to face challenges, hope to endure trials, and light to overcome darkness. The search for joy ends where it was always meant to begin, in the presence of God, who alone can satisfy the deepest longings of the human heart. The pressures that weigh on young people today are unlike anything previous generations have faced. They are told from every direction that they must succeed, look perfect, and meet the expectations of society, family, and peers. Social media has intensified these pressures by creating a constant comparison game where everyone appears to be living better, happier, and more successful lives. Young people scroll through highlight reels of others and conclude that their own lives are inadequate. This cycle of comparison breeds insecurity, jealousy, and a sense of worthlessness, leaving them overwhelmed by the feeling that they will never measure up. Academic stress only adds to this burden, as students are told that their value depends on grades, degrees, and career success. Many feel crushed by the weight of expectations, with little room to breathe, reflect, or simply be themselves. Relationships, which should be a source of comfort and stability, can also become sources of pain and confusion. Friendships are often shallow and conditional, based on popularity or shared interests that quickly fade. Romantic relationships are complicated by brokenness, lack of trust, and distorted views of love fed by media and culture. Instead of finding safety and support, many young people experience betrayal, rejection, or heartbreak that leaves deep wounds. These experiences make it even harder to navigate life, creating cycles of loneliness and distrust. The very people they turn to for comfort often add to the pain, deepening their sense of isolation. The pressure to fit in is another powerful force, pulling young hearts away from peace. No one wants to feel like an outsider, and young people often compromise their values just to be accepted. They change the way they speak, dress, or act in order to belong, even when it goes against what they know is right. In the process, they lose their true identity and become a reflection of the crowd around them. This creates an inner conflict as they suppress their real selves for the sake of approval. Living with this tension day after day leads to confusion and instability as they struggle to figure out who they really are and what they stand for. All of these pressures, academic, social, relational, and cultural, create an environment where peace is hard to find. The noise of the world drowns out the quiet voice of truth, leaving young people running in circles without direction. Many cope by immersing themselves in distractions like endless entertainment, substances, or chasing temporary pleasures, but none of these bring lasting relief. At best, they numb the pain for a short time, but when the distractions fade, the same feelings of confusion and emptiness return even stronger. This cycle of pressure and escape is exhausting, and it leaves youth questioning whether real peace is even possible. But there is an answer. The peace that young people search for cannot be found in achievements, approval, or temporary pleasures. It can only be found by returning to the one who gives life meaning and stability. God offers a peace that does not depend on circumstances, a peace that quiets the heart even when life feels chaotic. Where the world demands constant striving, God offers rest. Where relationships often fail, His love remains unchanging. Where identity feels uncertain, He gives purpose and belonging. This peace brings clarity in the midst of confusion, reminding young people that they are not defined by their failures or the expectations of others, but by the truth of who they are in His eyes. The pressures of modern life are real and heavy, but they are not greater than the hope available to every young heart. In returning to God, the confusion that once consumed them is replaced with direction, the anxiety is replaced with assurance, and the weakness is replaced with strength. What once seemed overwhelming becomes bearable because their foundation is no longer the fragile opinions of the world, but the unshakable presence of God. Young people no longer need to be crushed by the weight of pressure, because in Him they find the peace they have been searching for all along. God offers strength and clarity in a world where weakness and confusion often dominate the lives of young people. Many youth today feel lost, overwhelmed, and uncertain about their purpose. They are constantly bombarded with messages about who they should be, what they should achieve, and how they should live. This constant pressure creates an inner fog where decisions become harder and direction seems impossible to find. Without a clear foundation, young people are left wandering, trying to create meaning out of temporary pursuits, only to discover that the more they chase, the more confused they feel. But God does not leave them to struggle in the dark. He offers strength when they feel weak and clarity when life feels clouded with uncertainty. Strength is something every young person needs because life is filled with challenges that test their resolve. Whether it is the pressure of academic demands, the pain of broken relationships, or the weight of personal struggles, these challenges can leave youth feeling powerless. Many try to muster strength on their own, relying on willpower or determination. But these human efforts eventually run dry. They may appear strong on the outside, hiding behind confidence or achievement, but inside they feel exhausted and fragile. God's strength is different. It is not dependent on circumstances or personal ability. It is a strength that uplifts the heart, carries the weary, and gives courage to face battles that feel impossible. When young people lean on God, they discover that His strength does not run out, and that in their moments of weakness, His power shines through the most. Clarity is equally essential because confusion is one of the greatest struggles of youth. Questions about identity, purpose, and the future weigh heavily on their minds. Who am I? What should I do with my life? Where do I belong? The world offers countless answers to these questions, but most of them contradict each other and lead to deeper uncertainty. Society tells them to define themselves by success, appearance, or approval, but these are fragile foundations that can crumble in a moment. Without clarity, young people make choices that lead them down paths of regret, pain, and aimlessness. God offers a clarity that cuts through the fog of confusion. His truth provides direction and stability, guiding decisions with wisdom that does not change with trends or opinions. When youth listen to His voice, they begin to see their lives with new perspective, understanding that their worth is not based on fleeting standards but on eternal truth. This combination of strength and clarity is life-changing. With strength, young people are no longer crushed by the weight of trials. They can endure hardships without breaking, knowing that they are upheld by something greater than themselves. With clarity, they no longer wander aimlessly, but move forward with purpose and confidence, even when the road ahead is uncertain. Together, these gifts allow youth to live differently from the world around them. They stand firm when others falter, and they shine with direction when others stumble in confusion. Many young people feel as though they must carry life on their own shoulders, but the truth is that they were never meant to. God offers to walk with them, to lift their burdens, and to guide their steps. His strength does not simply patch up weakness, it transforms it into resilience. His clarity does not simply answer questions, it provides a vision that gives life meaning. When young people return to God, they find that the confusion that once clouded their minds is replaced with peace, and the weakness that once discouraged them is replaced with courage. No matter how uncertain the world may feel, the strength and clarity God provides are constant, unshakable, and always available to those who seek Him. Youth have always carried within them the power to shape the future, and history shows that some of the greatest changes in society have come when young people rose with conviction and courage. Yet this power can be easily wasted if it is not directed towards something lasting. Energy, creativity, and passion are natural qualities of youth, but without guidance they can scatter into pursuits that bring little value. Many young people today pour their time and energy into chasing trends, impressing others, or pursuing temporary pleasures. While these things may provide excitement for a short time, they do not leave a legacy. The world desperately needs young people to rise with vision, integrity, and faith, because when they return to God, they become a force of transformation, not only for themselves, but for everyone around them. The influence of youth is undeniable. Movements throughout history have been driven by the voices and actions of the younger generation. Their willingness to question, to challenge, and to dream has the power to reshape cultures and even nations. But without God at the center, this energy often turns into rebellion without direction or passion without truth. It becomes loud but empty, active but aimless. When young people align their hearts with God, however, everything changes. Their courage is not wasted on fleeting causes, but invested in eternal purposes. Their voices speak truth, their actions reflect justice, and their passion fuels compassion and hope. In the hands of God, the strength of youth becomes a tool for healing, renewal, and transformation in a world desperate for light. Many young people underestimate the impact they can have. They assume that because they are young, their choices do not matter, or that they must wait until adulthood to make a real difference. Yet every decision made in youth lays the foundation for the future. The way they live now shapes not only their own lives, but also influences their families, friends, and communities. When a young person chooses to stand for righteousness in a culture of compromise, they become a living example that inspires others. When they choose kindness over cruelty, integrity over deceit, and faith over fear, their influence ripples outward, often farther than they realize. A single life rooted in God can inspire dozens, hundreds, even thousands, simply because truth is contagious when it is lived authentically. The world today is filled with noise, deception, and brokenness, and it cries out for leaders who will stand firm in truth. These leaders are not always found in positions of power or fame, but often in the quiet strength of young people who refuse to conform to the darkness around them. Youth who return to God carry within them a vision that is larger than themselves. They are not blinded by temporary gains, but see life in the light of eternity. They are not swayed by every trend, because they are anchored in truth. Their courage to be different challenges others to reflect on their own lives, sparking change that begins with one heart but spreads to many. Every generation needs its torchbearers, and today's generation is no exception. The choices young people make now will determine whether the future is filled with more compromise or with a revival of truth and righteousness. Their potential is too great to be wasted on distractions, and their voices are too powerful to remain silent. The call is urgent for them to return to God, for in doing so, they not only secure their own lives, but also become instruments of change for the world around them. With God, youth are not just dreamers, but builders of a future filled with hope, integrity, and light. Their influence can shift the direction of entire communities, and through them, the course of history itself can be changed. The time for young people to return to God is not tomorrow, not someday in the distant future when life feels easier or more settled, but now. Many youth fall into the trap of believing that they have all the time in the world, that they can live however they want in their younger years, and then turn to God later when they are older. They think faith and devotion can wait until after they have explored, experimented, and enjoyed the pleasures that the world has to offer. Yet life does not wait, and every day that passes shapes their future in ways they may not even realize. The decisions made in youth set the foundation for what kind of life will be built. And delaying a return to God means building that foundation on sand instead of rock. Waiting until later is a dangerous gamble, because later is never guaranteed. The only time we truly have is now, and what we do with it determines everything that follows. The choices young people make today become habits tomorrow. A life of compromise, distraction, and aimlessness does not suddenly transform into a life of discipline, purpose, and clarity just because someone grows older. The patterns established now are the ones that carry forward, and they are harder to break with time. That is why the call to return to God is urgent. The earlier a young person turns to Him, the stronger their foundation will be, and the more prepared they will be to face the challenges of adulthood. To delay this decision is to waste some of the most valuable years of life, the years filled with energy, vision, and potential for change. These years, once lost, cannot be reclaimed, and the opportunities that come with them are often gone forever. Some youth believe that returning to God means giving up their freedom, but in reality, delaying this return enslaves them to the very things they think will make them free. The longer they wander, the deeper they fall into habits that chain them, addictions, broken relationships, destructive choices, and regrets that follow them for years. What feels like freedom now eventually becomes bondage, leaving scars that could have been avoided had they turned to God earlier. The world promises excitement, but that excitement fades into emptiness. God, on the other hand, offers life, and the sooner a young person embraces Him, the sooner they find the joy, peace, and direction that the world can never provide. The urgency is not only about avoiding pain, but also about embracing purpose. God has a plan for every life, and He desires to use young people in powerful ways. Youth is not a season to waste. It is a season to rise, to lead, and to make an impact. When a young heart returns to God, their energy and passion become tools for change. Their voice becomes a testimony, and their actions become a light to those around them. Waiting until later means missing out on the chance to shape lives, communities, and even generations. The world is desperate for voices of truth, and young people are uniquely positioned to carry that truth with boldness and clarity. No one knows what tomorrow will bring. Life can shift in an instant, and opportunities can disappear without warning. That is why the call for youth to return to God carries urgency. It is not about fear, but about wisdom, recognizing that the time we are given is precious and limited. Every day wasted is a day that could have been lived with meaning, strength, and joy. For young people, the best decision they can make is to return now, not later, to build their lives on a foundation that cannot be shaken. The future is shaped by the present, and the present moment is the one in which God is calling them back to Himself.